Good afternoon and welcome to MtMtE. I'm your host, Blind Prime, and for today we're going to be reviewing the non-invisibility mode for Transformers Alternators Mirage. I took him out of invisibility mode to do this video, and we're going to be discussing him in depth, talking about sculpt work, quality of the build, and the articulation and his accessories, and just how he feels in the hand. After 20 years of this, well, not 20 years, probably more like 17 years of this guy being out, how is he holding up? And I'll let you know straight up, I really enjoyed this figure. I really enjoyed the transformation. I really enjoyed the car mode. The car mode was awesome. The transformation for him was really fun and, kind of complicated. That's why it took 20 minutes to do. But I wanted to make sure that I verbally explained it well enough so that you, as a person who may not be looking at the screen, could follow along looking at the Transformer. Or if you're like me and completely blind, then you could just follow along with your ears and, and your fingers. Of course, I love Transformers because I believe strongly, they really work on those mind-hand coordination skills that the newly blind absolutely need to develop. And I also enjoy them for the fact that they are wonderful little fidget things, three-dimensional puzzles that you can just sit down and do whenever you need to think, but you want your hands to be doing something. And these are great for that. Just never get stressed out with them, and don't put too much force into an alternator because you'll probably break it. So remember that one. All right, let's get into today's video. First off, let's go ahead and take out his guns from his hands. I like how these guns fit into his hands. They are really in there. And you have to undo the hand and pull out the gun. The little tiny peg in the tiny peg hole thing in his palm really worked out well. But I am happy that we went for Siege instead, though doing a non-round handle allows them to put more textures and details into this stuff. And they did put textures into the handle for this gun. We've got an actual grip there. And you don't get that with the Siegeport stuff. You never get real good grips because, it's just a circle. So I say that the Siegeport has its place, but it's nice just to have some opening and closing hands so that we could get different size weapon handles. Go ahead and, well, I'm not going to fold it up now, but we already discussed that. I'll set that one off to the side. And then over here, this other gun, his left-hand gun, doesn't have the engine component on top of it like the right-hand gun does. So the left-hand gun here is just a really little, it's a neat little sci-fi pistol. And you got the same textures going on there. These guns do feel really nice in the hand. They definitely feel, small and they feel like something that a spy master would carry. Two small concealable pistols instead of one big boom gun, it feels like the correct weaponry for Mirage here. Now, let's get into talking about this figure, and I always love starting from the bottom and working my way up. So, from the bottom here, we have his feet, and there's a big hollow section in the front of his foot, but that's because the rear of his foot plugs into the front. Oh no. It's so difficult to get out. Crap. I just folded the foot up by accidentally. Let's come over here to the end of the hinge, and let's do the trick of rubbing your finger down the hinge and trying to get it to raise up enough to get your fingernail in there. If a couple of Lego sets hadn't completely destroyed my fingernails on that hand, I'd be able to pull the heel out. There we go. There's the heel. And the heel itself is actually really well textured. We've got a nice flat area there, but on the underside, it's got this groove. But the groove really works to kind of seem like they're two separate heel pieces. Maybe they have some articulation in them that we're not seeing. But I say the underside's pretty nice. So let's move it up to the top of the foot. And we've got really cool little sculpted details. Make sure I'm not holding him by his window on his back. He is difficult to hold. Okay. The feet here are really well done. We've got some cool little detail in the toe. The big toe and the middle toe seems to be like sticking out. And then the ring toe is just kind of pushed in. And then the pinky toe has some really cool detail on it as well. I like the fact that we get kind of a bunch of toes. Not all 5, but we get a decent number of toes in here. Both feet are the same. And we come up here to his, the articulation in his foot, which is not a ball joint per se. There is something in there. You can't really tell what kind of joint it is, but it doesn't act like a ball joint. It acts more like the joints that we have. We've seen a lot of here in Generations for the ankle tilt and stuff. It's very similar to that, but plus the foot articulation style of like a GI Joe classified figure, because we have like a bar that comes down to a hinge, and then that hinged piece goes in to the foot itself to allow the foot to wiggle a little bit. But the bar hinge that comes down has its own hinge up inside the foot, so you can't pull that, but you can rotate that side to side, and the amount of articulation in this foot, like look at that, look at that. I can just kind of do the foot sideways. It's wild how much articulation is in this foot and how solid this foot is. He's one of the more solid footed characters in the Alternators line because these aren't ball joints for his feet. These are legitimate joints, and they're really tight and nice. Coming up here to the front of the car mode, or actually the side of the car mode, the side of the rear that makes up the front of his foot. And I love the fact that the side of the vehicle makes the front of the foot. That is just really fun. And this big tire as a knee is just, it is fun. You can spin it and stuff. It's neat. And of course, got those rubber tires that I love. The side has some really, it doesn't have much texture, but we get a lot of good textures kind of symbolizing, as I've come to call them, robot textures. We got like, diagonal lines and some cuts in there and some vent action going on right there around the knee area. And you got some actuators up in here, kind of feeling things, little round bits, and it feels kind of robotic. And of course, it doesn't feel very armored, but that's because, he is all about the stealth and the spy work. So he's not really supposed to have a lot of armor. The front of his leg being the exception there. And then we have this bumper right above the knee that just kind of hangs out there, but you can spin it around to the side and fold it over the corner of the knee there, revealing more of the knee joint. And the articulation there for his knee is 90 degrees, but he also has swivel in his thighs. So there's that nice thigh swivel going on there, but not really much else when it comes to the articulation. Though you can, like I said, adjust the bumper to either kind of hang out around his kneecap as a knee brace or knee pad, or you can fold it down and put it over the tire. And I like the fact that you can do different things with these little bumpers. And that is kind of a fun aspect of him. You can make him your own with how you like to pose him. Then we come over here to the thighs, and we get a little bit of a little bit of sculpt work, a little bit of molding in the thighs, but once again, not very much. You're not really supposed to look at the thighs. You're supposed to look at everything else. Yeah, we come up here to the groin area, and we've got kind of what feels akin to a Gundam's groin area. And you got that little symbol. It's all right. We got some sculpt work in there, but not really much. But I do like that raised up symbol. It feels like a square or something, but it's still kind of neat that that's there. Coming up here to his waist. Now, his hips, he can kick out at a 90. He can kick forward more than a 90. And because of the kibble on his back, he can only kick back a little less than a 90. That's his hips. Now, he does also have rotation in the waist. And then we come over here to his front. In his front area, we have his tabard that just kind of sets down there. We can, of course, pick that tabard up and flip it back if we wanted to. And we are revealed with this different chest area for him. And I like the fact, it's not the best looking chest area, but I do like the fact that you can change it up by just moving that piece up and above his head, and you get a different kind of texture going on here for his chest. It's very plain, but it kind of feels neat. And then, of course, battle happens, and he can armor himself by flipping this down over his head. So instead of like a battle mask, he's got a battle chest piece, and I think that is just a fun aspect of this robot mode. Once more, you can display it in different ways, and I really, really appreciate that. I think, being able to display it in different ways is, it makes the figure a lot more fun. Of course, we have the chest piece here, the tabard, and the tabard's got some details on it, but it's actually kind of lackluster. It's just the hood, but the hood for the Ford GT was such a unique hood, like these two scoops that come down into these big vents that I didn't even really talk about much in the vehicle review, I should have brought up these vents, but these vents are so much more visible in this mode, and I like how when you unfold all of this with the front area unfolded out, it kind of gives you the impression that this is a Formula One race car, because these ends here come down into, they go from wide and they thin up and then come down into this thin area. And when this bumper is folded out like it's supposed to be, you get this gap between this thinned area and the bumper area, and this gap is kind of synonymous with a Formula One's gap between the end of the main cockpit area and those front wheels with the little bar. The gap is supposed to be where the wheels are, and then you have that little the little bumper bar in front of the Formula One race car, and they kind of gave you that impression here, and you can feel it very well. I doubt you can see it very well because there's probably a lot going on here, but I get what they were trying to do. I get what the Aaron was trying to do here, and I like it. I think this was really cool. This was a neat idea. It doesn't come off very well, but it's better than I was expecting, and I appreciate that. He didn't do a Formula One race car, but he really tried to make it look like a Formula One race car, or at least the impression of one on the front, the memory of a Formula One race car on his chest. And I love that about this figure. So I'm going to flip this bumper there. Now let's get back up. Let's go up here to the head. Talk about the head. Now the head here for him, it's not really the best in the world, but it's all right. I think that the nose is just a little too high. Like he needs his nose to be just a bit further down, and the eye area to be a bit wider there. But that is my only thing about this. Otherwise, this is a fun head sculpt. It's got these little bits on either side. Like it feels like Mirage. It's just Mirage, I thought, had a bigger forehead. And that's just about it for the head. Like it's all right. Head, of course, can rotate 360 degrees. If it wasn't for the kibble, he can look up pretty good. He can't look really down, but he can look up, and that's nice. Come on over here to the rear of the vehicle mode. Let's look at the back of him, showing off all the kibble on his back, but they do try with good kibble management here. I appreciate this kibble management. We got the front windshield of the Ford GT. We have the T, that nice T, whatever that's called, on the roof, where two panels can come off, and you got this thin area in the middle of the roof. I think that's a lot of fun. And then the rear of the vehicle is folded up underneath in a very, very concise way that really folds all the kibble up into a very tight backpack that's thin and lightweight, and it's really good. It's really good. I like how they stored the kibble on this guy. I really do. Now let's go over here to talk about the shoulders, and I've got them all kind of discombobulated because let's talk about other things, but we can bring the shoulders down. There we go. And they come to little points on either end. I do think this is the part where I'm like, I wouldn't have made this design decision. Instead of having the shoulders with the little points facing forwards, have it with the points are facing towards the roof, and then the door would be laying just floppy across the side of the vehicle mode there, and you would have lowered the arms down because there's this like piece of plastic that stops the arm from lowering down any further, and you could have had these arms lowered down, pop this entire section here, rotate down, and you would have wonderful movement for the arms, and you would also given him the impression of having a loose fitting coat on, like an overcoat or something that kind of hangs down, or more on the tabard motif, like the front is a floppy tabard, then the side could be the side of the floppy tabard, or poncho, if you will. I think that I don't like how far back these doors sit. These doors do mess with me because of their shape, and I'm worried about breaking them. I'm always worried about breaking these doors when I'm in robot mode. They feel great in the hand, but this little roof bit that folds over, it does worry me because it changes how wide this door is. It's like an L shape now. I can show you that. It's like an L shape now, and that does kind of get in the way. See, if it's up here, it gets in the way. and it doesn't want to hang out off to the sides. It wants to stay folded back, but that makes him have a very wide back area. For as thin as the backpack is, these doors ruin it. Even to the point where if you folded them right, the sides that stick in to make up the section of roof still make the doors wider than the backpack that's folded up. I wish that they had included one more joint on each side and allowed you to fold these roof sections down into the door. One little hinge right there could have allowed us to fold these little pieces into the door, and they would lay flat across the inside of the window. That would have worked out very well. I think that would have actually helped out a little bit with it. I still don't like how wide the doors are, but or how long the doors are, how much they stick out, but I would be able to accept that. It's just these little pieces that worry me. I'm so worried they're going to break. Now, articulation-wise for the side of the arm, with all those negatives being said about it, it's 360-degree movement on the rotation. He can pick his arm up decently well, and he can do a full 90, although in the top of his shoulder does slam into the side of his head. But, if he was trying to plug his ears, he could do that. Instead of reaching up to plug his ears, all he has to do is just reach sideways. Plug his ears that way. Okay. The elbow pulls a 90, and then the hand has its own little rotation, and the hand can actually move around. He can actually, with his articulation he has, let's see, can we actually get him to do like a face palm kind of feel? Can you face palm, sir? Or is it just too much in the way? There's just too much in the way, isn't there? Yeah, he can't really get up there to face palm. He can scratch his nose though. He can scratch his nose, so barely, but he can get it. He's got an itchy nose. He can't scratch it. The hands, of course, open and shut. The arms themselves, I like the little piece of bumper that acts as a elbow pad, and then the textures here on the arms are decently well. We're in this video real quick with because I don't really have much to talk about the textures on his arms. They just did a little bit of robot texturing, but it's very minimalistic, and not really expecting much on the texturing from an Alternators as we've seen. But here's a little size comparison. Here's Studio Series 86 Bumblebee. Little Studio Series 86 Bumblebee. And we can put him right in front. And he goes to the little bumpers that we were talking about moving around. And you can set him off to the side here. And his head is just above that tire in the knee area. Actually, his head goes right up to the knee. And can you even touch his head, Mirage? Mirage can barely put his hand on top of Bumblebee's head whenever his arm is just laying down to the side. There we go. You get to scratch Bumblebee's head. That's a good Bumblebee. Oh, yes, that's a good Bumblebee. Good Bumblebee. Well, thank you all so much for watching today's video. I'm going to give this guy an S in robot mode. This one's kind of a biased because I absolutely love the transformation. I love the vehicle mode. And the robot mode, other than the quips I've talked about on the sides, it's good. It's good, especially when you consider when this came out and how much articulation he does get. He is a wonderful figure to behold. He is a wonderful figure to own, in my opinion. I'm happy I have him in my collection. And I do recommend you getting him in your collection if you're ever interested in 1/32 scale Transformers. They are a lot of fun, and the only negative I can say about the Alternators line is it takes up a lot of extra space on your shelf, because these vehicles are a bit bigger. Thanks again for watching. Until next Prime, bye-bye for now.